Non si è mai pronti all'inevitabile. Nessuno sa come comportarsi durante un incidente aereo, un terremoto o davanti a un'eruzione vulcanica. Io sono Valentina Poddighe e questo è Mayday, un podcast voice in cui vi racconteremo storie di persone che queste esperienze le hanno vissute per davvero. Persone qualsiasi, come me e te. Ascolta Mayday sulla tua app di podcast preferita.
Hi everyone and welcome to the 99th episode of Praticamente Inglese, the podcast that guides you through mastering business English one phrase at a time. Ciao a tutti, come state? Spero bene. Today, what a great episode. Oggi vi parlo in italiano nel mio intro perché sentirete tantissimo inglese, perché sto per intervistare Stephen Devincenzi. Lui è un insegnante di inglese, è britannico, is from Canterbury. Mi ha contattato con un'email perché è anche un fellow podcaster, quindi anche lui ha un podcast, ma lui ha una reach globale, no? Mentre il grosso della mia audience è un'audience prettamente italiana. Gli chiederò tantissime cose, soprattutto essendo lui un native speaker, quindi un madrelingua, tutte quelle che sono le tips che può darci sia proprio specificatamente per noi italiani e sia in generale sull'inglese. Quindi sarà una bellissima intervista. Vi anticipo già che essendo questo il 99esimo episodio vi ricordo che il 100° uscirà la prima settimana di settembre. Cercherò di fare un grande recap generale e fare veramente un episodio di valore e poi tornerò a registrare nuovamente i primissimi episodi. A settembre il podcast compirà 5 anni, alti e bassi, un po' di costanza a un certo punto, poi persa, poi ripresa, insomma c'è stata una grande evoluzione, in tanti riniziano ad ascoltare praticamente inglese dal primo episodio e poi lasciano perché insomma era veramente molto acerbo all'inizio, quindi cercherò insomma di ricostruire bene queste 100 puntate ripartendo poi dalle primissime. So, come dico spesso, bando alle ciance and welcome to Stephen. Hi Stephen.
Hello, Mattia. Thank you very much for inviting me onto your podcast today. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. So you sent me an email and you are a fellow podcaster, right? Because you have a podcast as well, but you are more international. I'm like just the guy who speaks to Italians. So before getting to your podcast and all the things you do, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Stephen Devincenzi. I am from England, from the southeast of England. A town called Canterbury is where I live now. I have been a teacher, mostly teaching English in different countries for a long time. And I've also worked as a Spanish teacher for a while in England and as a primary school teacher. In England, in the primary school, people teach everything.
Not just about English,
right? Yeah. But primary school teachers in England teach everything. So maths, English, science, just almost everything. So I've been doing that for the last 4 years, and then also at the same time since the COVID pandemic, I started running this podcast called Simple English News Daily, which is a podcast which is released every day, and it's just 7 minutes long. And me and sometimes my co-host, we talk about everything which is happening in the world in kind of simplified English language so that people with an intermediate kind of level can understand. And we try to cover stories from every part of the world. So something from Europe, something from Africa, something from Asia, something from the Americas every day.
That's a great idea, I think. And also, from my perspective, when you think about learning English, it's very important to listen to people that will speak slowly, let's say, but at the same time, you need to get information, you need to get something valuable out of it, no? So the thing that I improve my English, but at the same time, I have news from all around the world. So I think it's a nice concept.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for me, this combination of learning languages through uh, through things that you already would have been doing anyway. This was really important for me when I was learning Spanish and French. I really did practice a lot of my Spanish and French through these kind of background methods of learning, of just putting something on, putting the radio on, whilst I'm making my breakfast, or listening to a podcast, where maybe at the beginning I only understand half, and then the more I listen to it every day, I learn a little bit more, and I understand a little bit more all the time. And I've because I've always been so interested in the news and what's happening in the world. Yeah, it made sense for this podcast to.
So this is what actually inspired you to start the podcast, the combination of helping people to improve or learn English, and at the same time to give news, international news. That's great. And how do you select the news stories that you feature on your podcast?
Because the majority of what we focus on is really, excuse me, like the big stories that are happening in the world. Something really major happens, we will talk about that at the beginning. It's quite easy to select most of the stories because they would be covered everywhere. For example, now we're talking 10 days after somebody tried to kill Donald Trump. Obviously, in the next day, we would talk about that for a few minutes. Not for the whole 7 minutes, but for a couple of minutes, we would talk about that because it's the biggest story in the world, really, for that moment. But then also, we try to, as I said, we try to take something from every continent every day. So we will always find smaller stories. There's some big news agencies like Reuters and Associated Press, which are really fantastic. They've got journalists all over the world, and they're being updated all the time. And so I look at those every day. And then also some more common news sources like the BBC and Sky and Al Jazeera. And I try to look at some local newspapers from the places that we're talking about. So if I'm talking about a story from Argentina, then I'll look at La Nación, which is the biggest local paper there, and see what they're saying. And the same for different countries all around the world. So a bit of a mix, but probably a bit more than half of the stories would be big enough that they're already being talked about everywhere. But then also we try to add some extra interesting, maybe strange or funny or different stories that people haven't heard about anywhere else as well.
And what criteria do you use to ensure the language is accessible for English learners?
Yeah, I always try to think that after reading a story from a few different sources, the way that I will try to put it into Simple English News Daily, my podcast, is that I will try to simplify it as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And by trying to simplify it as much as possible, but still retaining the true meaning of the story, this generally arrives at a kind of B1, B2 level. And there are some times where it's impossible and something is a bit too complicated and it starts being a bit more advanced. Mm-hmm. But I put it in anyway because it's really important to keep the true essence of the story, the true meaning of the story. So yeah, it's really just a simplifying process. And really, every day making an episode of the podcast, most of the time that I spend making it is reading from lots of different news stories, reading from lots of different news sources and putting it into a more simple way into the podcast.
Yeah, and also I think you have a huge fan base, let's say, followers from Italy, right?
Yeah, I'd say probably Italy is maybe third, I think, in the number of people who are listening. Yeah, I think probably Japan is at the top, and then maybe Germany second and Italy third, something like that. It goes up and down, but yeah, in fact, the reason that I first knew about this podcast about Praticamente Inglese was because I did a survey of my listeners last year, and one of the questions was, what other podcasts do you listen to? And what a few of the Italians, 2 or 3 Italians, said that they also listen to this. So maybe there will be somebody listening to this now who wrote that in that survey. If so, hello.
Yeah, that's great. Let me say this in Italian because I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, please.
Steven giustamente diceva che ha scoperto praticamente inglese perché facendo, diciamo, una survey, un questionario, un sondaggio tra i suoi followers italiani, ha chiesto quali altri podcast ascoltassero in Italia e in tanti gli hanno detto praticamente inglese. Quindi poi lui mi ha contattato, ci siamo sentiti, io sono sempre aperto a questa tipologia di collaborazioni e di interviste. You know, this makes me very proud, you know.
Good. You should be.
And also, you know, 97% of my audience is based in Italy because, of course, in my podcast I speak in English but at the same time in Italian, no, because I think it's easier, no, for people to understand better. And also I use everyday kind of ready to go sentences that you can use straight away. Doesn't really matter the grammar, you know, all those kind of things, no?
Yeah, and also I know some of the topics that you cover in your podcast are quite advanced, really. You know, like this professional language, business language. It is quite advanced, so I can understand why it can be a good idea to switch to Italian.
Translate, yes, well, it's kind of a niche, you know what I mean? Because from my perspective, if you think about in Italy, people that really need to improve English or learn English, it's just about 80% of the time is about work. Because they want to move in another country, because they want to get a promotion, they want to become a manager of you know, a foreign branch or something like that. So they really need English. So my focus is English for work. Just because of that, I don't see too many people that really wants to improve English because they want to travel the world and they want to better speak when they visit New York or things like that. You know what I mean? The thing that I like about your podcast and what you just said is like, okay, 97% of my audience is from Italy, no? And you have a huge audience all around the world. And you said, okay, first place Japan, and then Germany, and then it's Italy, and then I don't know how many countries you track, no? And it's great because you have a global fan base. Is incredible. You know, someone will try. I'm sure that everybody is trying to write to you in English. Hi, Stephen, thank you very much, and things like that. But I should do something different. I should do kind of practically Italian, you know, the opposite of praticamente inglese, no? So definitely. Everybody will listen to my podcast to learn Italian, right?
There you go. Well, when you get some more free time, that's your next project. Yeah,
in my case, it's still a hobby. You know, I record during the weekend, as you see, and you know, but it's nice. It's something that I really wanted to do when I came back from London, and in Italy, with English, we're not so good as in other European countries, but we're growing, and I'm sure we will get there. Anyway.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a big generational difference in Italy, isn't it? Like, people who are under 40, under 30 are much more likely to speak English than people who are over 50, 60. You know, there's a really big difference between just a few decades there, right?
Big surprise for you. What I understand from, you know, those platforms like mainly Spotify is that my audience mainly is an audience of people from 45 to 60 years old. So it's kind of sort of, let's say, I think that's my idea. I think there's a lot of people that they want to improve English for work. Maybe you're getting into the export management or sales or things like that, and you start realize that there's a lot of countries from all around the world that wants to get in touch with Italy in terms of tourism, in terms of business, in terms of, made in Italy products, things like that. So I think there's a big willing to better understand English, and
Absolutely.
because English is like easy to read and to write when you studied at school, you have a good understanding. But then when it comes to you need to express yourself, you need to open your mouth, it's difficult. You need to get practice. You need to have practice of those kind of things to be effective with other people. But in general, as you can see, I'm not a huge English speaker. I understand English. I communicate very well. But I think the key is to make sure you are able to communicate to the entire world through English.
Yeah, absolutely. And by listening to your podcast, and others, I'm sure that listeners are really improving this.
Yeah.
They're just having this general connection is really a great way to move forward.
Oggi Voice ti consiglia.
Benvenuti alla segreteria telefonica dell'astrodisagio. Per il reparto scene imbarazzanti, premere un numero a caso. Se siete dello scorpione spiacenti, i centalinisti sono tutti occupati. Lasciateci le vostre confessioni disagiate dopo il segnale acustico. Ascolta la segreteria dell'astrodisagio con Vitridente, Laura Sky e tanti ospiti su tutte le piattaforme che distribuiscono podcast.
But from your perspective, as you are a native speaker, what are some common mistakes that Italians make when, learning English? I don't know if you had the chance to...
Yeah. One thing is something which is similar to French people, which is not saying the H. So just ignoring the H completely. When in English, really, you should be making a sound, like an airy sound at the beginning.
When you want to clean your glasses, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. You need to clean your glasses. Yeah, I've not heard that one before. I'm going to use it. Yeah. You need to clean your glasses, so you're doing that onto them. Yeah. So right now, Mattia, you're wearing a hat, but an Italian person may say you are wearing an at, But it's wrong. It's a hat. Or what else is there?
Quindi la prima cosa, I'm just translating straight away in Italian, quindi la prima cosa è che tanti italiani non pronunciano l'H. In questo caso io ho un cappello in testa mentre stiamo facendo questa intervista e giustamente Steven dice devi dire hat, non devi dire at. Cose di questo genere, ed è comune sia agli italiani e anche ai francesi, mi sembra di capire. So, what else?
Yeah. A kind of opposite one of this, because the first one was not pronouncing the H. Sometimes Italians over pronounce the R. So the R in English is kind of it's
a silent R.
Yeah, it's not very pronounced. It generally comes a bit more from the back of the mouth instead of the front. But Italians are often pushing it to the front of the mouth and just doing it too much. So for example, I would say start, like we will start to walk, but an Italian person may say start, like bringing the mouth together too much, like that. Or at the bird, they may say bird, like with it closing the mouth a bit more, where really it's quite open. Bird, car. An Italian may say car, like closing the mouth at the end. Really, you should just leave it open. Car. And at the start of words, it's a little bit different, but you do have to open the mouth a bit more there as well. So like the color red, red. Whereas I think an Italian may put the mouth together too much and do like red. True. Or something like that. So I would say red. It's raining. Again, Italian may say it's raining or something like that, like using the tongue a little bit when it's not necessary. Rain, red, roll, rope. So there you go. There's for the H, it was not pronouncing it enough, and with the R it's pronouncing it
It's
too
too
much.
much. Ok,
Yeah,
quindi
yeah, yeah.
quest'altra cosa importante è che noi, diciamo, stressiamo troppo la nostra R, quindi pronunciamo la nostra R in maniera molto forte, e quindi car, che sarebbe la macchina, noi diciamo magari car. Oppure, another one, for example, you say iron,
Yeah.
no? And we
Yeah,
say
iron.
iron,
Yeah.
let's say, this kind of thing. So there's some words that you don't even use it, they are in there. You
That's
don't
true.
listen, you're not able to listen to it, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it depends a little bit on where it is in the word. But like, as you've just said, iron there you go. It's between the I, it goes IRON. And you could actually take away, the R completely from that word, and it would be the same. Iron. It's the same. ION. It doesn't exist, but it would sound the same. Iron. Yeah, completely. At the beginning of the word, r, and then at the end of the word, it's just like an R. So yeah, quite different. Yeah.
So H and R are
Yeah.
the main thing that you noticed related to Italians.
I've got one more. I've got one more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me.
This is a kind of a funny one, but it's actually just the easiest way to know that somebody is Italian or has Italian as a first language
Okay.
is just that they put an extra at the end of everything. So, and it's because I think in Italy, basically there are no words which finish in consonants. Everything finishes in a vowel.
Yeah,
so,
correct.
So when speaking English, people add a extra
Okay.
sound to every word. This sound is a really easy way to know that someone is Italian.
You're a proper
This
Italian
guy.
right now. You're a proper Italian. Giustamente lui dice, in tanti, siccome noi non abbiamo nella lingua italiana, diciamo, parole che finiscono con le consonanti, ma soltanto con le vocali, quando ci imbattiamo in parole invece che finiscono con la consonante, cerchiamo sempre di aggiungerci una vocale. Infatti, quando lui lo faceva, effettivamente è vero, no? Quindi, so, yeah, you're right. You're kind of right. I never thought about it before.
Yeah,
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 but you're kind of right. When you said that,
Yeah.
that sentence, it was true. You
Yeah.
really
And
sound Italian.
if you listen to an actor or something who is pretending to be Italian, that is the first thing they will do. They will just add that sound to the end of everything they say because it's just like a cheating way of sounding more Italian. But
Okay, yeah.
that's it. It's the easiest way to hear if somebody is Italian.
Is
or
Italian. And I
speaker.
think the Spanish guy are very similar to us, right?
They are. It's a little bit different though. I don't think they add this extra vowel to the end of everything. Yeah,
But they stress more the words, is more deep, the sound, maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
yeah. The intonation is a little bit different, but I don't think they automatically add this vowel sound to the end of everything. I think this is quite
It's
Italian.
more Italian, okay.
Yeah, there's different things that Spanish speakers do. Like they actually add an eh sound at the beginning of some words where they don't exist because in Spanish they do. So like if even for the word Spain, Spanish speakers would say España.
Spain,
Spain.
yeah.
But that is yeah, I mean it's not right, it doesn't matter, but it's
Okay.
yeah, it's that's another very obvious way of hearing it. I am from Spain.
So
But
having said our problems, let's put it this way, now, what techniques then you recommend for improving our skills, especially when it comes to understanding maybe native speakers or even speaking English?
Sure. Okay, the first thing I will say is the thing that I just said about the this vowel sound at the end. don't worry about it. Yeah. Don't start controlling yourself and thinking, oh, I've got to stop doing that. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Honestly, people quite like it. It sounds quite nice. It's actually quite a nice act. If you ask 100 English speakers, which foreign accent do you like listening to? Half of them will say, "Oh, I love the Italian accent. It's so nice." And it's actually partly because of this vowel thing at the end. So don't spend too much time thinking about that. But of general ways of improving your listening skills and your speaking skills as well, that I would say just repetition is excellent. Uh, if you are doing something every day, then you will get better at it. Even every week, but every day is better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
practice.
It's really, really true. Yeah, totally. If you can go a little bit above your level, then that's even better. So, I would say if somebody is listening to us talking right now and they only understand 50%, 60%, that's fine. Keep listening. Yeah, keep listening anyway. And then if you keep listening for 6 months, then that percentage that you understand, it will just go up. It's not going to go down. I've been doing this with the radio in French for the last year. I mean, yeah, I don't understand everything when I'm listening to the French radio, but I listen to it all the time anyway because I know that it's just getting better. It's just
Yeah, you get
improving.
used to it, no? And then it's going to be easier, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, you start to recognize the stories that people are talking about, the way that people are talking, and this helps. It allows you to understand more the following day, which improves your listening overall. So that's one thing. Yeah. So go a little bit higher than the level that you can currently understand, and that's a good thing. And also, I would say try to find something you are genuinely interested in, something that when you are listening to it, you're motivated to want to listen to it. If you are really interested in, I don't know, sports, football, then maybe you could find a podcast where people are talking about football in English, and maybe you understand a lot of it. Or if you're interested in, I don't know, uh, making wine, then try and listen to a wine making podcast in English. I feel like this motivation for listening to something is really, really useful. If you're not interested, it just makes everything much more difficult to listen to and to put it on every day and to make something part of your routine. And making something part of your routine is very, very useful.
And for example, there are any, I don't know, particular exercises or resources that you think are effective for practice?
Yeah, well, I know I'm biased because I have a podcast and I'm talking on your podcast right now. So I'm definitely biased, but honestly, podcasts are fantastic. They really are. Like the fact that you can listen to whatever you want, whenever you want is amazing. It's just brilliant. And as I said before, you can find podcasts today, now we're living in 2024. There are podcasts about pretty much every subject in the world, in a way that you want to listen to them. And if you listen to 5 minutes and you think, oh, I don't really like this host very much, you can change and listen to a different one. It's really, really good. And you can do this. You can have it in the background when you're just washing up or driving or walking or something. But then also, if it's a little bit too difficult and you want to work on it harder, then you can stop and just listen, or maybe do some writing or something. If people are really interested just in English learning podcasts, there are lots of them. Some of them come with resources, and you can make your own exercises if you want to. Like, for example, if you're listening to my podcast, Simple English News Daily, you could listen to the whole thing. It's only 7 minutes long, and then try to summarize, like write your own summary of what you think has happened in a particular country. You could try to guess what's going to happen in the future in a particular country, maybe write your ideas behind that.
And I think that's
yeah.
great, the podcast, because you can listen to different podcasts. You know, you
Yeah.
have in your queue, you have maybe 7, 8 different podcasts. For example, I release an episode mainly on a weekly basis. No, you
Yeah.
release on a daily basis, right?
Yeah. In fact, not the weekend. So there you go. People can listen to you on the weekend and listen to me during the week.
No, mainly
Yeah.
for me is different because my podcast, I think, is popular because of the infotainment in the cars. Now, people commuting to work, they
Yeah.
usually listen to my podcast when they are commuting to work,
Oh,
like
that's nice.
early in the morning or maybe late in the afternoon, Monday to Friday, let's say.
Right.
That's my ideal listener. But in general, I understand if I release an episode now, this interview is going to be maybe 40 minutes, something like that. But in general, I release an episode about 10, 12, 8, 15 minutes, right? On a
Yeah.
weekly basis. So they listen to my podcast, but then, you know, they continue listening to other podcasts. That is perfect for them to practice and to improve English. Also because my pronunciation is not like a pronunciation like a native speaker, like you
It's really
are.
good. It's really good though.
Okay,
Really,
great.
Mattia.
Thanks.
I'm not just saying that.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
true. Yeah.
But yeah, podcast is a great medium right now for listening to English, improving English. And then, as you said, you can decide. It's not anymore like the TV or the radio station that you need to connect on that particular time. You play whenever you want, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, and yeah, if apart from podcasts, the more traditional ways of consuming the media, you know, TV, series, radio, you can put these things in English as well. I'm sure that a lot of the people who are listening to us now would watch series from America or something like that, and they would watch it with English audio and maybe with Italian subtitles or something. That's good. Like all of these little connections that you have are good ways of practicing as well. So yeah, but just that having that general daily connection is really useful.
And you know, we get to the main question of my podcast when I do interviews, which is if you can share 3 key tips with my
Yeah.
audience on how to improve English in a different way, because like as you did in Spanish and French, no, you are learning those languages as well, no? So
Yeah.
what has really helped you in the past or in learning other languages?
Okay. One is making your own kind of immersion experience despite the fact that you are not leaving your country. Yeah. So I generally think that one fantastic way of learning another language is to be forced to. Yeah. If you go and if you move to Moscow tomorrow, you know, you're gonna need to learn Russian, right? You don't have a choice. You're gonna be there for a long time. Nobody speaks Italian. Not many people speak English. Like you will be forced to. But you can kind of recreate this experience in your own life in certain ways. So one thing is by, as we've been saying for half an hour, putting on a podcast in the background and having that in English going all the time. That's great. You can go into your phone and change the language settings of your phone to English. And therefore,
Right.
every time that you look at your phone, it's in English. You know, the same with your computer, with any other devices you have. As long as it's all safe and you're happy doing it, then it can be a really useful thing to do. And you know, with your Facebook or LinkedIn profile and things like this, you can just put everything in English. That can help. You can have an app which is beeping you every day, telling you, "Oh, just do your 5 minutes of practice." You know, this can be Duolingo or Memrise. There's lots of little apps which exist like this. Again, it might only be 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. It all really helps. And if you are somebody who looks at the news like I do all the time, then maybe you could make your default place to go an English website like The Guardian or, you know, the Times, the New York Times, something like this. You can also have these briefings alerts which pop up on your phone from a service like the BBC or something like that. So your phone is just delivering you, breaking news stories, but in English all the time.
Yeah, like notifications, and then you have to read it, at least the first 3 rows, no?
Right. Yeah. And then, you get bored of them, you delete them, whatever, but it's something there. But this is the kind of recreating a kind of immersive experience within your life.
Quindi, I'm gonna translate in Italian, but because it's very useful, I think. Giustamente Stephen dice bisogna immergersi nell'inglese, e se non avete la possibilità ovviamente di andare all'estero, quindi essere costretti vivendo in una città estera a parlare la lingua di quella città, di quella nazione, la cosa importante è magari switchare nelle vostre applicazioni, proprio nel sistema del computer, del telefonino, mettere la lingua inglese, così che tutte le parole sono in inglese, così come anche quando entrate su LinkedIn, su Facebook, no? E impostare proprio la lingua inglese, oppure utilizzare delle app che vi ricordano di fare quei 5 minuti di pratica importantissimi durante la giornata, quindi cercare in tutti i modi di ricreare un ambiente immersivo e quasi, come dire, senza volerlo, vedere che l'inglese arrivi, no? Queste notizie, queste breaking news che vi possono arrivare da grandi canali tipo BBC, CNN, eccetera, eccetera, e quindi vi arrivano direttamente in inglese, quindi essere forzati in qualche modo a essere esposti all'inglese. I think that's great. I think those are great tips in general. And I would like to ask you, Stephen, where can we find you? So if someone says, okay, that's a great interview, I really like Stephen, where can I find him?
Sure. However people are listening to this right now, they can search for Simple English News Daily. So if you're listening on Spotify, you look in there. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, if you're listening on YouTube, just look for Simple English News Daily, and you will find me.
But I think it's written like send 7.
This is a collection of the letters. So Simple English News Daily, SEND, and the 7 stands for 7 minutes. So sometimes it's written in small as send 7. So it's got 2 names, but it's the same thing. And the website, if you want to go to the websites, is send7.org.org. So send7.org. But in apps, it's Simple English News Daily.
Okay. And what about social media? For example, for me, LinkedIn is the main social media in terms of connection with people and things like that. What about you?
Yeah, but the social media presence of Send7 and of myself is quite low compared to the size of the podcast, because we've got many thousands of listeners to the podcast, but you could not see that on our social media channels. Probably the biggest one is Instagram, I think.
Okay.
And that is at Send7 Podcast. And on Facebook, it's also at Send7 Podcast. And
so you are like me, that I post just when there's a new episode and say, hey guys, listen to the new episode. That's it.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I haven't thought of anything more exciting to do.
You need to have time to create content. So it's already time consuming to create one episode, because you need to collect all the sentences, all the things, in your case, all the news, and then you need to record, and then you need to edit, and then you need to publish. So it's already quite, hard.
Totally.
Just to post the episode. Think about create
something for social media. Yeah, something interesting. It's difficult.
Yeah.
But if people want to connect with me on LinkedIn as well, then they can just search for my name.
I will tag you anyway. As soon as I release the episode, I will tag you anyway, so someone will click on it. Definitely.
Great. Yeah.
So great. I'm going to do an outro in Italian. So, una cosa importante che volevo dirvi è che questo è il 99esimo episodio. E il prossimo episodio sarà il 100°, cercherò di fare un grande recap generale di tutte quelle che sono state, sono stati gli episodi precedenti, quindi voglio fare qualcosa che resti nel tempo e uscirà la prima settimana di settembre, quindi poi ci rivediamo dopo questo agosto, ci rivediamo a settembre. Un'altra cosa importante è che siccome tante persone continuamente scoprono praticamente inglese, riniziano da capo, dalla prima puntata, ma io nelle primissimi episodi nel 2019 quando li ho registrati ero veramente molto acerbo, non avevo degli script, non mi preparavo niente, era giusto un qualcosa da buttare lì, registravo sul telefonino senza fare edit, niente, no? Quindi sono veramente molto molto acerbi i primi episodi e quindi siccome mi dispiace che tanti magari lasciano perché pensano che il podcast sia un po' quello dei primi episodi e non sanno che c'è stata una grande evoluzione nell'arco degli anni e così via, dopo che avrò messo pubblicato il 100° episodio, tornerò a rifare i primi episodi, almeno i primi 15, diciamo così, ecco. Comunque vi aggiornerò. So Stephen, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure for me, and definitely listen to Sen7 on your favorite platform, as well as continue listening to Praticamente Inglese. I'll see you in the next episode, which will be the episode 100. Which is quite exciting, and I'll see you after the summer. So have a great holiday season, and I'll see you in September. Thank you very much. Bye, Stephen.
Thank you very much for having me, Mattia. It was a pleasure to be here.
Bye bye.
Sono Elena di Voice, ecco per te un consiglio dal Voice Network.
Ciao, io sono Matteo. Se stai cercando conforto nei momenti difficili o un'ispirazione da storie d'amore che possano risuonare con la tua, ascolta Wonderwall. Ogni giovedì nuove storie d'amore in ogni sua forma ti aspettano su tutte le piattaforme. Inizia questo viaggio insieme a me. Cerca Wonderwall sulla tua piattaforma di podcast preferita.
Segui i podcast di Voice sulla tua app di podcast preferita. E se sei un utente Prime, ascoltalo senza pubblicità su Amazon Music.